Hi, I am Khalidah. Welcome to my channel. Okay, so this is live, my first live. I'm Khalidah, and my channel is Fearless Over 50, the Fruitful Path. And on my channel, I like to talk about new beginnings, finding courage after loss, reconnecting with faith when you feel far away, learning to flourish and find your voice and your power, and discovering what I call the fruitful path. And today I have with me Fareeda from Fareeda's Beautiful Life. And I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Fareeda. My channel is Fareeda's Beautiful Life. I have been a lifelong educator. First started off in Montessori school, Islamic schools, parochial schools, then branched off into online schools. And now currently I am faculty at an online university. And I just talk about living a life of ease, slow travel, bopping around, being a flexpat, and working remotely. So those are my passions right now, along with my kids and my grandbaby, and just taking it easy, going on walks. So that's me. And Khalida and I have been friends for over a decade, and we've been together through the ups and the downs. So it is an honor for you to have me on your first interview. Thank you so much.
Yes, my first interview. So forgive all the fumbles, everyone. All right. So I've been talking lately about the fruitful path, right? So what I'm gonna ask you to do is I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions, and I would like you to tell me, because you haven't spoken publicly about any personal fall that you might have had, right? Many women, they experience their fall is divorce or trauma, relocation, loss, or generally moments that shake their world, right? So I want to ask you, could you share with me now or share with us now one moment that you would say was a fall?
Well, one of the biggest moments, I know a lot of times people feel like a divorce is the most ultimate loss you can go through. But for me, one of the biggest losses and falls that I've experienced was a workplace loss. I have been in Islamic education for over 20 years. So when I enter into a school, it becomes a family for real.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through a time where, I was getting feelings of intuition, of being watched, of being criticized, of getting bad reviews. These were people who were in the hospital with me when I had my babies. These were people that, had henna parties and bridal showers for me. So to go through a loss of a job where you feel like you're being watched, you're being monitored, and you're being pushed out, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it, along with going through personal challenges with relationships, with children, with finances. It was very, very hurtful. It was very overwhelming. Sometimes to this day, I still think back to those days where, we were pushed out, and I feel a sense of sadness. I cry. So, yes, I've been through loss professionally. And at the same time, I was going through a loss personally with my relationship and a very, very contentious divorce. So it was a very, very difficult thing to go through.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? That season, it's not necessarily just one thing at once, right? It can be
Mhm.
multiple things that can make it really, really overwhelming for you, right? So, in that moment, right, what do you think helped you to hold on? And, like, even if it was just barely, what was it that helped you?
For me, it was my family. My family, they give it to you very straight. They are West Indian from the islands, second generation as well. And when I would talk to them about these issues, they, told me straight up that, you are not wrong. You're not imagining things. This
Mm,
is an institution that they've visited. They've seen my coworkers. They've seen my bosses, in my home, postpartum, delivering food. So they knew the closeness. All of my social circles, all of my friendships, including yours, came from
mhm,
my work in Islamic schools.
mhm.
So it was so enmeshed. My friendships, the great people in my life were also coworkers and bosses and superintendents and people that worked at the schools. So it was a huge part of my identity. And as they started to make that shift and started to lay off people unexpectedly, I was at the top of my career. I was a English chair. I had my own corner office. I felt like I was where I needed to be,
Mm,
and I plan to retire there.
mm,
I plan to make this my life's work.
yeah,
So to have to pivot like that, it was who do you turn to? Because the people
yeah,
that I would have turned to were either too emotional at the time and too enmeshed in the situation, or they were the people that were actively harming me. And
yeah.
then to go through a situation where, I had a very contentious divorce and, was paying thousands of dollars for lawyers, and had some of my friends saying, what you're doing is not Islamic. You've got your mahar, you should stop.
Wow.
So, so it's like, I was going through a spot where it was only my brothers, my mom that really helped me get through, because everybody that I would have normally gone through to were involved and they were in it in some way, or they were pushing me to take a more vocal stand and get up in the community meetings and say we are suffering, and and that's just not me. I
Yes.
process a lot internally. I do a lot of reflection. I do a lot of journaling. I'm a non-confrontational person.
Mm,
So the biggest thing that all of the coworkers had me do was write a very strongly worded letter to the admin, and then all of the teachers signed it as well, and we sent it in, and I guess I made enemies for life off of that letter. So to
yeah.
this day, it's still kind of traumatizing. And, you don't ever fully get over a betrayal of that magnitude, but
Yes.
it gets easier as the years go by with reflection, with understanding that a lot of people were put in difficult positions and had to make some very hard choices, which ended up not serving them in the end as well. So
Mm,
you could see the fallout. Everyone who was a part of the betrayal also got betrayed. So
yeah.
weird as it may sound, that was a comfort for me.
Yeah, I think as well, because I know that I was there with you, going through it with you, right? And I often tell people that my relationship, that relationship was like an abusive relationship. Do you know what I mean? Because
Exactly.
you were so in love with the your job and the workplace and everything else, right? But at the same time, it was very destructive. I feel like, that kind of leads into the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah doesn't burden a soul with more than it can bear. So even though at that time it felt like it was totally unbearable, I mean, you're here now, right? So clearly it was something that you could actually get through, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'm so proud about myself is that through the scandals that preceded this big blowout, there were two major scandals in that school, in that community. I always allowed my students to talk and vent and express their feelings in the classroom where everyone else had a hush hush, let's cover this up mentality. And I think that also, in hindsight, led to led to the fallout that happened, because looking back now, students have reached out to me in droves for marriages, for baby showers. And it's really because the number one thing they say is, you always kept it real with us. You were always kind and you listened. And that makes me very proud, even though I was going through things that they could not have imagined.
Right.
So, when you keep your ethics, you keep your morals, you keep your kindness, it always pays off in the end.
Yeah. And, the fall is painful, but, it's often the doorway to transformation, right? So, my next question would be, after that experience, how did you begin to rebuild your foundation emotionally, spiritually, and practically?
Mm. Well, let's start with spiritually. Spiritually, I had to rebuild my foundation through retreat. I had to go into myself, do a lot of reflection, actually take the advice of a good friend and go to counseling, get, formal counseling as well, because I was going through so many things simultaneously. Having a child that is straying away from the deen, and you're trying to bring them back, and there's that push and pull, and realizing I have to just make dua, I have to release this. And to see that, that child has come back, is stronger than ever. And I just got to witness her having beautiful, deep religious conversations with my mom. It's just been such a full circle moment. But at the time, it was, what are the people going to say when they find out that Sister Fareeda is going through this? So it's
Mm,
very, very shameful when you're having, this issue with the community, you've been let go. Even though later we all were offered our jobs back, it was a breach that couldn't be crossed. And also the very, very painful divorce and attorneys and switching attorneys and haggling over child support and haggling over the 401 or 401k plan division and haggling over what you've invested 20 years of your life in,
mm,
all at the same time. It's very difficult. So spiritually, I definitely had to take some time. I had a beautiful, beautiful trip to make Umrah with my mother, and that was the turning point. After Umrah, I felt this sense of peace that everything would be okay. Made my dua, left it in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. And even though it still hurt, I still cried, I still felt betrayed. It became easier. That burden became a lot easier to bear.
yeah. And that reminds me of the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Verily, in remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." Yeah. So that sorry, what were you gonna say?
I said, absolutely. It was a moment where one of our tour guides from Dar es Salaam, he was going over, the battle of Uhud, when we were at Uhud, and showing the incredible odds and sacrifices and injuries, and showing us the spot where Khalid ibn Walid came around and
Mm,
surrounded the Muslims, and just, it's when you're living the sirah and you're living this deen, you're like, what were my problems again? And I kid you not, I'm on the top of the mountain, the very top of the mountain. I'm with the goats. I'm with the monkeys. I'm on the top of the mountains. I'm looking down at Ghar Hira. I'm looking down at the cave of Hira. What do I hear? That's Sister Fareeda from ISI. That's Sister Fareeda. That's Abdullah's mom.
Oh, subhanallah, all the way in Mecca.
Like, I cannot escape these people. So for better or for worse, I realized, okay, it's family. Families have fights. Families fall out. Families do bad things. But at the end of the day, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm good. And I will make it through this fall.
Yes, in Jamaica we have a saying, "Tea tan tong masafi meat," right? So like you have your mouth, right? And inside of your mouth is your tongue, and you bite it. There's times where you bite your tongue, but you don't cut it out and throw it away, because it's inevitable that somebody's going to bite their tongue at some point in their life.
Exactly. Yeah. And then hiding from the people and being, a hermit, as I'm inclined to do, it doesn't work, because we're social beings. We need each other. And because you hurt me, I have to have that courage to say, here's how you hurt me and why. Can we salvage this? Can we move on? Sometimes it's, we'll just be cordial. And sometimes these relationships can be repaired, but having those tough conversations is something that I've learned and I'm still learning to do. And it makes me feel so good, even though it's super terrifying.
Yes. Yes. And, that is the second part of the 4 seasons, right? The fall, and then, returning to Allah, and, just finding that faith and that safety again, right? So that you can then begin to move into what I call the 3rd season, right? So what do you think, like, how did you, what decisions did you make, right? And to move forward, and how did you kind of like decide what you were going to do next?
Great question. So the first thing that I had to do was I had to get my finances in order, because we can talk about spirituality all you want. If you're drowning in debt and you have no savings and you're going through this crucible, you're going to be in trouble. So the first thing I did was I got serious about my finances. I started paying off my debt, paid off my student loans, paid off my car, and started creating some financial stability, creating a buffer so that I could have the space to do what I want. Because a lot of times we accept jobs that we don't want because of financial necessity, because we don't have that safe space to land. And I did not want to do that. I didn't want to have to jump into the next Islamic school that was paying, poor wages, or would have me in an emotional state that the place that I left had me. So I really, really worked on my finances. I made sure that I always had a month extra in rent, that I had that buffer in case of an emergency. And then I had to start doing the work of building up my social circle again and looking outside of the Islamic school setting to do that, and making a lot of friends at the new place that I accepted at a public school, and getting outside that really, really small bubble, which was really good for me because it taught me how to talk to people, how to be social with people while keeping it professional. And mind you, this is in the middle of COVID. So we had a lot of people that were losing their lives in the public school system. And we had a lot of students that lived in multi-generational households who were losing grandpa, grandma. So again, it was a lot of turmoil while I was trying to put my life back together.
Mm.
But alhamdulillah, I got totally out of debt. My credit got better. I saved my $10,000 3 to 6 month fund in case of emergency, which gave me a chance to look around and breathe and decide, what do I want to do? And
Mm.
that's exactly what I did. And I realized that the remote working life is better suited to me. So that's what I started exploring. It took several years, but having that buffer, having that financial freedom and not being tied to debt, a car note, any payments that were owed, medical bills, nothing, it gave me a freedom that I never experienced before.
Right. So would you say that that was the point at which you realized that you were no longer surviving and that you were actually thriving?
I wouldn't go as far as to say thriving, but I was at a place where I could see the light at the end of that tunnel. You know,
Okay.
when you're almost there and you're like, I know that there's something missing. I know that I do want to try this marriage thing again. I do want that companionship. So I wasn't quite there yet, but I was a place where I was not crying in my sleep every night. I was not bitter. I had no animosity towards anyone. When people that I felt were part of the betrayal reached out to apologize or collaborate, I accepted with, a full heart. And I was on the place where, okay, I see what I want out of life. I see that I want to be free. I want to
Mm.
have location independence. I want to have freedom over my time, what projects I get involved in. And now I'm building my community outside of this institution that was my home for the last 11 years.
Mm.
And I'm also trying to repair some things that may have been damaged.
So I know you talked about finances and, getting yourself together financially. Was there anything else that you did that helped you reclaim your power and your courage?
Well, for me, it was all about community, the community of my family, the community of the sisters here in DFW. So for me, it was attending those lectures that I might not have had the time to attend before, visiting Houston and going to some of those Islamic events, spending time with my mother, and really just traveling, seeing the world.
Mm.
When I was in Morocco, I saw a beautiful way that Islam is practiced there, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and just seeing, okay, there are many ways to do this. And there are many ways to develop community. So I really just spiritually, for me, it's a very private thing. I don't have to shout it from the rooftops. But for me, it was seeing that there are a lot of different thoughts. There are a lot of different ways of being. There are a lot of different ways to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Mm.
And not being so rigidly attached to one way that might have been the Dallas way or the,
Mm.
our community way. And it really helped me be less judgmental and more open minded in that way.
Yeah. And um, do you feel like you know the confusion, was there any moments of confusion or doubt, like that you were doing the right thing, and if so, how did you overcome those?
I think the doubt came through the divorce process. A lot of people were, they were very, very on the path of, you're not getting beaten, you're not being cheated on. Why are you doing this?
Mm.
And when I would explain my situation, that the fall doesn't have to be something so extreme as domestic violence. The fall doesn't have to be something so extreme as, he gave me an incurable disease. It could be something as we started on this journey together and then we split. We split apart. We were not aligned Islamically. We were not aligned spiritually. We were not aligned ethically. And, it doesn't mean, he's wrong and I'm right, or I'm wrong and he's right. It just means that there was no alignment. And that could be a valid reason. And you would be surprised at the amount of criticism and vitriol that I got, because the idea, I'm Gen X, so the idea is, if he's not beating on you, what are you doing? You stay in this marriage.
Yes.
So, and then the nerve to go through the courts and get and get a financial settlement. It's like, how dare you? So the process was difficult enough, but the feedback from people that I really respected and who were my dear friends, that was so negative, that hurt a lot. And I was like, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to blow back and affect my children in a bad way? So it was very, very hard, but ultimately looking back and seeing the position that I'm in now and the financial stability that I have, and looking at my cohorts who I grew up with, and they did it the other way, and they are struggling very badly. I feel like I made the right decision.
See, I love that, because that leads into my next question, which is, now when you look back on your life, what fruits are you experiencing in terms of joy, abundance, or legacy?
Well, for me, having the ability to jump up and take a trip to the islands and visit my homeland, and my ability to take off a day without explanation, or just be with my parents or my grandmother, who is, mashallah, in her 90s now, and I can sit and I can type and I can work while spending time with my loved ones. That is abundance for me. It's not about luxury. It's not about designer shoes or bags or cars. For me, luxury is having that peace of mind to say, I want to go to Hawaii for a month and spend time with my daughter. Yeah, my hours are going to be crazy. I'm going to be starting work at 4 a.m., but I miss her and I want to be with her. And I'm going to take that flight to Hawaii. So that is my idea of abundance.
All right. And how do you share these fruits with others, especially women walking their own journeys of healing and growth?
For me, it's my YouTube channel. For me, I share my highs, I share my lows, I share where I'm struggling currently and my plans to do it, holds me accountable. And I show that there's another way. For me, it's remote work. For others, it might be a tiny house somewhere. For others, it might be moving abroad. For others, it just might be quitting a toxic job and finding something that's still brick and mortar, but it's more peaceful. So whatever that life of ease is for you, I really endorse that on my channel, along with my various events and walks and get-togethers. I love gifts. I love gifting people and showing the people in my life that I care about them. And one sister made my day. One of my events were over and she was like, Sister Fareeda, you are the glue that keeps this community together. And I was like, me? So hearing something like that really makes my day. It makes me feel appreciated and that I'm on the right track. However my friends decide to find their abundance, I support it 100%, and I know that they support me.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. So, for women who are watching or will watch later, right, and they feel like they're in their fall, right, what encouragement would you give them in terms of moving through the other three seasons?
Mm. Well, I feel like women be knowing, women be knowing when we're in that relationship that is toxic or abusive or not aligned. It's not like we're in la la land. We
Mm,
know it is not serving us. And we're trying to love that person through it. We're trying to solve the problem. We're trying to fix it.
mm,
But the moment we get quiet and the moment we're like, okay, bet. And the moment we start to reflect on this is not going to change and I need to make a plan, that's when people need to get worried. It's not when we're raging. It's not when we're crying. It's not when we are, fussing and fighting. It's that time where we're sitting, we're writing, we're journaling, we're thinking. That's when the change will happen. And you can't force anybody to that point. For me, I have to go through it. I have to give chances. I have to go through every single resort to see, can
mm,
this be salvaged? Can this be repaired? And I
mm,
feel like most women are like me. We're not dumb. We're not dumb. We
mm,
know exactly what's going on. We know the problem and we know how that person is hurting us. What we don't know is how we're going to get that plan to pivot and have that life that we deserve, and how we're going to build up that courage to leave the person that, although is hurting us, we love them dearly. So we be knowing, we just we have to get to that point at our own time.
right. And so what is the one step that you would say that they could take today to start to move out of the fall and into that building of their foundation?
Mm. I would document. My mind is very logical. I like to document things. I like to have pro and con lists. I like to journal. So I document things. I like to see patterns on paper. So even if you don't have the financial ability or the mental wherewithal or the spiritual courage yet to do anything about your situation, start documenting, start writing things down, seeing patterns. That way, when you start to falter and it's time and it's time, you can go back and be like, oh, snap. Yes, that did happen. That did happen. I'm not
Mhm.
daydreaming. So
Mm,
for me, it's documentation, writing, reflecting. That way I know, okay, this is definitely not working. Here's the evidence. It's not based on emotion, it's based on logic.
love it. Love it. All right. So I'm gonna start. I want to give you just some quick fire questions, right?
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah. So, and you just like whatever comes to your mind, okay? So, my first question is a verse or a hadith that grounds you when you're rebuilding.
In the ma'al usri yusra, of course. Like with difficulty comes ease.
Okay. A practice that helped you move from surviving to flourishing.
Budgeting.
Okay. One fruit you are most grateful for today.
My children and my grandchild.
Yay. All right. Well, that's my quick fires. Anything that you would like to say as a closing comment?
This has been such a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you. Felt like a safe space, and may Allah reward you. I appreciate it.
I mean, all right. And any plugs you want to plug here today?
Yes, please go subscribe to my channel, Fareeda's Beautiful Life. Join us to the Beyond Enough a treat, October 7th through 14th. And just support your sisters, support us, send us a coffee, send us a chat of thanks, send us a cash app, and help the cause. We are all on this journey together. Let's support each other, spread the news, and make dua for us if you can do nothing more.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Fareeda, for joining me for my very first live interview. It was a bit messy and touch and go at the beginning, but yay!
You're most welcome. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I will leave the link to your YouTube channel and to our Beyond Enough retreat. So anybody interested can join us there. All right. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.